Welcome back, everyone, to the After the Scales podcast, episode 13, with today's special guest, Jake Trainer. I'm Jacob Dove from Phenom Motorsports, along with Shaun Blight from Canadian Racing Tours. Jake is a pavement midget and sprint car driver. Jake, thanks for being on today.
Not a problem. Excited to be here.
So, obviously, we have to talk about right off the bat your big win over the weekend. Tell our viewers about that. That was very exciting to see you get the win in the midget.
Yeah, it was awesome. Last year we picked up the win at the Carbonite Classic too, and it was cool to follow it up this year. It was interesting circumstances though, to say the least. Friday night was supposed to be when the races ran, and we ended up having to go back there Saturday morning and run it about 9 a.m. and then boogie over to Anderson for a little 500.
Yeah, that was a whirlwind day for myself included because I was involved in that. And just a note off the top, I was down at Indy celebrating a birthday for me. It was a big number. We don't need to talk about that. So I've come down with the Indy flu, so I've got a bad cough and voice, but we're sucking it up and we're dealing with it. So yeah, Jake, you pretty much dominated that midget race and like really stout field. So tell us about your day then, because yeah, obviously the big downpour on Friday messed everything up. So what was the schedule like? Because you guys were like out of there real quick.
Yeah. We were, fortunate enough in that situation. I wasn't running the Silver Crown car, so I didn't have to stick around for the Hoosier 100 right after us. But we were actually staying up in the Anderson area, so it was about an hour ride down in the morning, and they had us hot lap at I think it was 8:45 maybe Saturday morning, and I was still waiting for breakfast, going out for hot laps, but um, it was interesting. We got done racing about 10 o'clock and got right out of the track after the race.
How did it feel, going into victory lane, kind of that hard work going into Indiana with the amount of people that you're racing against in the midgets? It's a really stout field, and to be able to go out there and win against those type of people. I mean, we just had Bobby Santos the third on our episode. You raced against him. You got other guys like Justin Grant and a lot of other really talented racers that you're racing against. So tell our viewers how it felt getting in victory lane and getting that reward.
Yeah, it's unbelievable when you look at the list of guys we're going up against. I don't have a lot of national experience myself. I've ran maybe 10 races at IRP with the national midget, and I'm just fortunate enough to be in a really great car. And when you're running against Cody Swanson, Bobby Santos, these are guys, Justin Grant, like these are guys they've done it all on the national level, and it's really cool to be in the position I'm in.
So you had the big win in the midget race, and you go to Anderson for the little Indy. And I've done one Indy 500, so I did the one this year. I was almost more excited for the little Indy than I was for the big Indy because I'm a short track guy. I love that kind of stuff. And this was a race that I had on my bucket list for a long time. You won it last year, and there was a point where I thought you were going to win it again, and you probably did too at one point. So tell us about your race and how that went.
Yeah, it was a whirlwind. We were good all week. I thought we were kind of time wise. We're kind of in that fifth place range. That's where we qualified, and in the middle of the second row, it was kind of a melee that first lap, just trying to get to the bottom, get everybody sorted out. But once we got clean and green for a little bit, it was tough. That first 100 laps felt like it took forever. We didn't get to run a whole lot of green laps the first 100, but um, once the field started getting smaller and guys started spreading out and settling in, I felt like we were as good as anybody. And that race is it's 500 laps in a sprint car. Those cars really aren't made to go 500 laps, so you're just trying to minimize all the wear and tear and prevent mechanical failures and 500 laps, keep your tire under you. And I felt like we did everything right. We put ourselves in a really great position again to maybe win it, but about 100 to go, a lap car tagged us and got me in the fence, and that ended our night.
Yeah, definitely feel with the asphalt sprint cars, you have to make it to the end in order
Yeah.
to be in position for any win. And I feel like even with those cars, just being there at the end is accomplishment in itself. So just surviving all the chaos is definitely really exciting to watch from a perspective. But we kind of wanted to jump back a little bit to your early years of getting behind the wheel of a race car. Tell our viewers, like, how did you get your start in racing?
I started in quarter midgets when I was 5 years old. I want to say I started at. I'm from Massachusetts. I started locally down at Little T Speedway, at Thompson Speedway, and I'm a first generation race car driver. My dad didn't race anything. We just happened to be at Thompson. I want to say for I think it was the Icebreaker, which is their big race to start the year, and they had a little promotional booth for quarter midgets, and my dad asked me if I wanted to go down and try it, and went out and did that. It was like $25, I think, to go make laps in a quarter midget, and I went out, tried it, I liked it, and the rest is history from there.
You said you're a first generation driver, so obviously your family is a fan of racing. Like, what's kind of your dad or your family's like what were they into that kind of got you into a race car?
My dad was both my parents really. They're big into NASCAR in like the '90s, early 2000s. They're really into that, and my dad, we would just go to like some local races when I was younger, and that's when we found the little promotional booth there, and we went from there.
And obviously, you're a young guy, kind of making your way up through the ranks. Kind of tell us how you've gotten to this point in your short racing, well, kind of young racing career. You've been running the number 29 midget now, getting some experience in the sprint car. Tell us how all that deal came about.
Yeah, I started right out of quarter midgets. I got into really, it's a Ford Focus midget. It's with the NEMA Light series up here up north. And I started doing that right out of quarter midgets when I was 12. And I ran, just me and my dad ran that for a couple of years. And back in 2020, I ran my first race for the Seymour family and Matt in the number 29. And, fortunately to get hooked up with that family, they've going back to Boston, Louis Seymour, he's a Silver Crown sprint car champion back in the 70s, and they've won all sorts of races. They've had Kenny Schrader, Bentley Warren, Vogler. There's just so many guys, Bobby Santos, so many guys that have ran for them, and fortunately I've gotten in there and gotten in that seat, and they prepare a great race car.
That's cool. You mentioned a lot of names that I grew up racing. I was a huge Bentley Warren fan as a kid, watching him at Oswego Speedway. So you're a young guy. Obviously, there's such a rich history of, midgets, super modifieds, modified specifically on the East Coast. Is that kind of something like your family was into, and is that kind of a history that's kind of been kind of shared with you?
Yeah, I grew up like going to all the local tracks around us. The biggest thing is modified racing. This is huge modified country up here, and I've never gotten to run a modified or a super modified. I always thought supers growing up were the coolest things in the world. Those things look like F1 cars, and they got big box in them. They're sick, but
yeah, you're not wrong. They are the coolest things in the world.
Yeah,
I will say that.
Yeah, but I've never gotten the chance to run any of that stuff. I would jump at it, I'd say, and it's what they have here in the Northeast, just big modified country, and to be honest, I'm not really sure what got my dad to go the midget route up here in the Northeast. Open wheel racing other than modifieds and supers. Midgets aren't a huge thing, but the NEMA series is really the only club and pavement midget series in the country still going.
So just as a little sidebar, I'm actually going to Oswego this weekend for the winged super modified race. I know Cody Swanson's actually hopping in one. So I'll ask around. I'll put in a good word. I can talk to some of the folks down there, and if you want to get into one, go ahead there, Jacob.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. Supers are sick. I grew up watching them at Thompson, especially. Those guys are doing about 150 into the corner with, they're hairy.
And share with our viewers. Obviously, you have a big schedule, racing a lot. You have to balance a lot of your time. But tell our viewers about how many races you got going this year, and then also, it's not a one-man sport. You may be a race car driver, but it takes a lot of sponsors and resources to help you. So share some of the people who help you, like crew members. How many crew guys does it take to get up and down every weekend racing, and as far as everyone that helps you with that?
Yeah. This year I think I have about 25 to 30 races on my schedule. And you said it best. There's so many guys that come into play to make everything possible to go racing every weekend. And me and Matt we're full time working in the shop, and when we go to these big races, there's so many guys that'll pop down the shop, nights whenever they can. And luckily for us, with the little 500, we need 10 guys to make a pit stop. So there's so many people that just love it and love to come out and help. But with the sprint car stuff, there's so much that goes into that to prepare for the little 500, and pit equipment and fuel rigs, and there's so many moving parts, and Barry Kittredge makes that all possible for us. And with on the midget side of things, the national midget, it's Jeff West that supplies a great race car, and Skip Holgren that puts a power plant in it for us.
Yeah, Jeff West. We heard Bobby Santos mention him because I know he runs his super modified every Labor Day. So it's good to see him still around. I wanted to circle back to the little Indy because you've mentioned a couple of times now the hectic starts, and if you haven't seen it, I actually recorded it, so maybe I'll kind of dub it in as we're talking about it. So you won the race last year, and for those who haven't seen this race before, it really is the little Indy. They start 3 cars in a row, 33 cars. They do 500 laps as opposed to miles. How much of that race is just like surviving the start? Because it really is nuts on a little quarter-mile bull ring.
Yeah. Last year was my first year running it, so I had no clue. I'd been there the year before. Matt had actually run with Kenny Schrader, ran the car, and so I went the year before to watch, and I couldn't believe my eyes watching 33 sprint cars start 3 wide. But the first lap, there always seems to be something, and the biggest thing is everybody's fighting to get to the bottom and get in line to start riding. So if you can make it through that first lap, it makes it a lot easier to make it through the rest of the 499 laps.
So you said I didn't know that was your first one last year that you won. Do you have any guys coming up to you that have been running that thing for years and haven't won that were like, hey man, like put in your dues here?
Yeah. No, I was scared to death, to be honest with you. I was so nervous last year. I qualified on the front row too, so I felt like even more pressure to, try and do something special. And luckily, it just felt like everything possible went right. I just don't know how we could have drawn it up better. In that race, there's so much luck that goes into it, and Jacob said it earlier. That race is just survival. You have to be able to be there at the end, and I feel like that makes it so much easier to be able to race for the win in that last 75 laps when you're starting to get on the throttle.
we keep mentioning about how young you are and how you're going up against these veterans, but I mean we have to give you some props for I'm watching this race on my television and I see the 29 car and I'm think, wow, that guy is really really a mature racer making good moves, kind of saving his stuff towards the end, and then here you are hopping out and you're younger than a lot of the whole field. So um, how does that interaction kind of feel? There's a lot of really good drivers, like we've talked about, and do you get respect, in the pits, or you kind of just block that out? You kind of just run your own race.
Um, I feel like in this day and age in racing, the narrative with younger kids is that they don't drive with as much respect or respect the older guys like say it might have used to been. But I feel like that's what I try and do best. I try and be respectful as I can on the track and to everybody in the pit area. And it's I'm actually pretty close with Bobby Santos, and he's from one town over from me. Actually, his dad lives probably 10 minutes away from me. And I feel like respect is huge in racing. It goes a long way, not only in the pit area, but on the track when you're wheel to wheel with those guys.
So what's next for you, Jake? Like, where do you want to be? Kind of maybe by the end of this year, kind of next year. Do you have any kind of short term plans, long term plans?
Um, I would say my biggest goal is I want to get into a Silver Crown car. I feel like that's I look up to all those guys a lot, and right now I'm racing against a lot of them. And I think Silver Crown racing is so cool, running on the miles and um, just long races. I love the long races and pacing yourself, and I'd say Silver Crown racing.
And you mentioned Silver Crown as kind of your short-term goal, but what would be like a long-term goal that you would want to set for yourself to go after and accomplish?
Um, I honestly I don't know where I'd like to be. I really love with the open wheel stuff, and um, if something on a higher level were to come along and get me up the ladder, maybe then that'd be really cool. But I don't have as high aspirations to go to NASCAR, say, but the Indy 500 sure is cool. But I just don't. I don't come from money, and I don't have the funding to really boost myself into positions like that.
Well, we're definitely going to be keeping an eye on you, Jake. You definitely turned some heads this weekend. I was super impressed for what that's worth. We really appreciate you coming on. If you've seen the show before, we always end with a segment called Rapid Fire by Victory Fuel. We'll ask you 10 quick questions. You just fire off the first thing that comes to mind. Some of them are racing related. Some of them are just kind of general, get to know you kind of things. So we always like to do it with our guests. So Jacob, why don't you fire away?
Yeah, so make sure to use our guy Bert's Victory Fuel code, Dirt Lake Nation, to get 10% off on all your Victory Fuel needs. And we'll hop right in. So, first question is why the number 29?
Um, it was going way back to Boston Louis, and that was his number. That's what he started off with back in the '60s, racing sprint cars and champ cars.
And what's the fastest mile per hour you've ever reached in a race car?
Um, I don't know for sure. If I had to guess, it would probably be in a pavement sprint car at IRP. I'd have to guess we're in the 150 mile an hour range.
And what is your favorite racetrack?
Uh, I would probably say IRP. I love that place. It's fast and momentum based. I love that kind of stuff.
And if you could race one race car for the rest of your life, what would it have to be? It could be anyone.
Uh, I would probably say I'd probably say pavement sprint car. Yeah.
Yeah, usually we have people say IndyCar or Formula One, so I like that answer. More grassroots. But
Yeah.
next one, what is the best thing to do in Medway, Massachusetts?
Oof. Um. Man, I don't know. There's not a whole lot to do here. There's a nice basketball court down the street.
There's no restaurants or bars or places for
um.
people to go.
No, there's yeah. I guess there's a nice bar up the street. I'm not old enough to get in there though, so.
And this one's kind of debatable, but Indy 500 or Daytona 500? What's more prestigious in your opinion?
I would have to say the Indy 500. I think so. Just the last few years have been out there racing on the same weekend, just seeing everything that goes into that weekend there. I'd probably say Indy.
And you have a unique last name with Trainer, but do you have like a racing nickname?
Um, on no, really don't know.
Well, I guess we'll have to have our viewers come up with one in the comments. So drop one below if you guys are creative.
I'm open.
But, and more personal stuff. What's your favorite music artist or band that you're listening to right now?
Probably Zach Bryan.
Good choice. And if you could go back in time, what race do you wish you could change the result of?
Oof. I'd have to say just a couple days ago at the little 500. Try and go back to back.
And last but not least, on our 10 questions, what do you enjoy the most about being a race car driver?
I would say just the feeling of, I don't know about, just when you have a good run, successful run, just knowing everything that went into it, preparing for that. I feel like that's the best part of it, knowing what you went through to get to that spot.
Well, those are definitely some great answers, and we really appreciate you coming on the podcast tonight. And obviously, we wish you the best of luck in your next races coming up and the rest of the year. Also, make sure to check out some of Shaun's pictures. I know he has some cool pics of you winning and standing up with your fist in the air. Some pretty cool shots. So make sure to check out Shaun's pictures that he got. Make sure to go give Jake a follow on his social media and stay up to date with him. And yeah, Jake, thanks for being on today.
Thank you, guys. It was a blast.
So we appreciate Jake for being on again. And obviously, he's a great young racing talent. So be sure to keep an eye on him. We wanted to conclude our podcast with talking about some past weekend racing that went on. I got to watch a lot of racing from my couch, but fortunately, Shaun got to see it front row and center. So, Shaun, tell our viewers all the places that you went.
Yeah, so I'm a Canadian, but my favorite weekend of the year is Memorial Day, because even the local stuff, there's always major events, short tracks around the country. So it started Thursday night. I went to the USAC sprint dirt race at Circle City, and Logan CV kind of ran away with that one. But the racing back in the field was amazing. Dason Pursley and Brady Bacon were like passing for second every other lap. It was awesome. We mentioned Friday night I was supposed to go to IRP. That got rained out, so they ran it in the morning. USAC Silver Crown, the midgets, and then they had I forget what they're called, the IndyCar, the Pro 2000s. They ran those. They had a couple of those features. So Jake Swanson, surprise, surprise, with the Silver Crown win, and then raced up to Anderson to watch that race, and that was fantastic. It was a cool experience. And then, of course, the Indy 500 on Sunday was epic. Like I said, like I don't really have a favorite IndyCar driver. I just wanted to see something historic, whether it's Larson winning, whether it's Helio getting his fifth, someone getting their first. I wanted to see something cool. And a last lap, last corner pass for the win on the outside with Newgarden basically saying, I'm either going to be, scraping my body off the wall or I'm going to be in victory lane. Like that was unreal. So such a cool weekend.
Yeah, definitely really cool to see. Obviously, I feel like every year the Indy 500 is getting exciting and exciting more and more. Obviously, another great, amazing turnout, even with the rain delay. Obviously, the big story of the weekend was Kyle Larson trying to attempt the double duty with the rain delay, had to stick to the IndyCar obligations, and then made two mistakes during the race, which cost him a really good finish. I mean, he was racing up there with guys have been running way. I mean, it was the first time running an actual IndyCar race, so I thought he did pretty good holding his own. Obviously, unfortunate with the Coca-Cola 600. I know there's a lot of angry NASCAR fans. You have a crown jewel with the Coca-Cola 600, and you call it early, even though it seemed like the track was going to dry up. But definitely disappointing. A lot of people were waiting around, seeming that Larson was going to get back in the car, and just Allgaier was doing really good in the 5, holding it until Larson got there. So maybe I think Larson will probably try to attempt next year. It sounds like he seemed like he was pretty down on himself.
Yeah.
Which obviously you can't discredit him for attempting to do that.
So just as a sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. Just as a kind of an behind the scenes. So our seats for the Indy 500 were literally so we're on the inside, the Tower Terrace, and we're literally I'm staring right across from the pit speed markers. So you're watching some guys come in and smoke their tires and slide in. And I mean, it wasn't close with Larson. We saw him coming in and it was, I don't know if they showed the replay. I assume they did, but he was cooking coming in there. But yeah, he had a top 5 car. It was heartbreaking to watch because he was really down on himself, like you said.
Yeah, for sure. And obviously there was a lot of other races going on. We had the Show Me 100 at Lucas Oil Speedway in Wheatland, Missouri. The other prelim nights were awesome, and then for some reason on the main night, things were kind of hard to get through. The track was different. They ended up having to shorten the race from 100 laps to 80 laps, which you never like to see as a race fan, but it was understandable. There was a lot of different strategies going on, but Jonathan Davenport came out and ran away with it. He's been really good there. As far as the sprint cars, we had the really exciting Bob Weichert Memorial at Port Royal. Obviously, all the high limit guys, very competitive, and then you got the Pennsylvania Posse guys, and then you even had some outlaw guys, David Gravel, Brock Zierfoss, Logan Schuart. They all showed up wanting to chase after that $75,000 to win purse. So really exciting race. I'm going to be biased. Obviously, it was a heartbreaker for he seemed like he was going to make a last lap pass when the caution came out. And no discredit to Danny Dietrich. So he was running the 29 white livestock sprint car and got the big win.
That was really cool to see. Like if you're gonna lose to anyone, I mean that's such a cool race, and for that car to be in victory lane at it. I mean, I don't care who you cheer for, and I know there's a lot of Raymer versus Dietrich fans, but that car going to victory lane at that race is pretty cool.
Yeah, a lot of people were hyped for that. I'm surprised Port Royal didn't burn to the ground, but there was also some recent racing the other night. Last night we had Castrol Night in America on Flow Racing with the late models at Macon Speedway, and it was absolutely chaos. There was caution after caution. There was pile-ups. Brandon Shepard ended up flipping on his lid. Garrett Alverson and Brian Shirley got out of their cars and helped flip the car over. It was nuts. And obviously the big controversy of that race last night was RTJ, Ricky Thornton Jr., getting into Bobby Pierce on a slider. I don't know. Drop in the comments below if you think RTJ's slider was dirty or not. I think a lot of people are going to say dirty, but in my opinion, I was talking on Twitter to some other people, and basically Bobby Pierce got Bobby Pierced because he's known for making that move too. But I mean, hey, they're race car drivers. They're going for the win. It's a tight bull ring. It was exciting. It was a long race, but we're going into Eldora this weekend. Shaun's going to be, delivering some behind the scenes content. So, Shaun, kind of share a little bit about that coming up.
Yeah, I was going to say maybe the best part about the Ricky Thornton Jr. Bobby Pierce thing is that we're not going to have to wait very long to see those guys race against each other, because they'll be at it next Wednesday at Eldora, if not before. So I'll be there Wednesday through Saturday, be shooting some photography. So you can see a lot of that on Dirt Late Nation on Bert's page. So we're not quite sure what we're going to be doing for the podcast next week. We've got some ideas, maybe some live feeds, some Q&As with viewers, some post race, maybe live feeds. So we'll keep you guys posted. We'll be posting schedules and things online, and do some pit walkthroughs maybe. So if there's anything you want to see, it's my first dirt late model dream. I've never been to one, so I'm pretty excited. So if you guys have any ideas of things you want to see, things I need to check out, please let me know, because I want to experience this. It's my first big late model race. I've been to a few big sprint car ones, and I've been to the Dirt World finals at Charlotte, but a standalone late model race, I'm excited to see the atmosphere that brings out.
Yeah, definitely some exciting things to keep an eye on, and I feel like a lot of the drama that carried over from last night will definitely continue into the dream, and a lot of other drama in the dirt world, and with the high limit sprint cars. Another heartbreaker for Tyler Courtney last night at Grandview Speedway, but it was an exciting race overall.
Yeah.
I mean, doesn't matter who you were rooting for, Brent Marks, Tyler Courtney, Brad Sweet, Rico Abreu, they were all battling for the win. I don't know how many laps there where Brad Sweet and Brent Marks were just side by side duking it out, and one little mistake on the top really cost their chance at winning. And then obviously Courtney was going to win it on the last lap, and then decided to go to the top. And even Chase Rodman calling the race, he was confused why he did that, but apparently Courtney said that he heard an engine coming and decided to go up top. So just, uncharacteristic mistake, and that's what you're going to see in this dirt racing world.
Yeah.
Not every driver.
Yeah, especially like dirt racing in general, specifically with sprint cars, because that's what I follow most closely. I mean, there's never been a tighter group at the top, I don't think, at this point than certainly in my lifetime. I grew up watching Steve Kinser and Sammy Swindell kind of dominate in the 90s, and you've got so many guys at the top that can win any night. It really is great for us as fans.
Definitely, yeah. As grassroots racing fans, whether it's dirt or asphalt, we're definitely spoiled with what's going on. So we wanted to thank everyone again for tuning into this podcast. Obviously, Jake was really cool to talk to, and we wish him luck. And make sure to like and subscribe to our After the Scales YouTube channel. Make sure to follow us on social media. Keep all up to date with our episodes. And yeah, thanks everyone for tuning in, and we'll see you guys on the next one.